In September 2022, the disappearance of a kindergarten teacher during an early morning run in Memphis, Tennessee, became national news. The case stood out not because of a complicated mystery, but because of how quickly everything unfolded and how clearly parts of it were recorded. Her name was Eliza Fletcher. She was 34 years old. She lived in Memphis with her husband and their 2 young sons. She worked as a kindergarten teacher at St. Mary's Episcopal School, where she was known as a reliable and committed educator. Parents trusted her with their children at the very beginning of their education, and colleagues described her as calm, organized, and consistent.
We're gonna sing This Little Light of Mine, okay? Ready? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no. Miss you girls. Now you need to let the light shine at your house, and I will see you later. But wait, 1 second. I heard somebody that you might wanna meet. Janie, come here, girl. Come here, Janie. Come here, Janie. Hey, look, girls, this is Janie. And Janie is the girl in our house because there's 2 little boys and a Mr. Fletcher, and so there's just me and Janie.
Eliza also came from a prominent Memphis family connected to the Orgel Inc., one of the largest privately held hardware distribution companies in the United States. Despite the background, she was passionate about her job and teaching. Her daily life was structured and ordinary. She worked full-time, raised young children, and followed a routine that balanced family, work, and personal discipline. Running was part of her routine. Eliza trained regularly and often ran early in the morning before work. According to friends and family, she preferred familiar routines close to home and usually ran near the University of Memphis campus while the streets were still quiet. On the morning of Friday, September the 2nd, 2022, Eliza went out for one of those routine runs. At approximately 4:20 a.m., surveillance cameras later showed her jogging alone along Central Avenue. She was wearing a pink sports top, blue purplish shorts, and running shoes. The area was dimly lit, with very little traffic. Nothing in the footage suggested she was aware of any danger. What Eliza did not know was that the dark-colored SUV had already been moving through the area. Police later confirmed that multiple surveillance cameras captured the vehicle before the abduction. One camera showed it driving through the neighborhood earlier. Another showed it parked nearby shortly before Eliza approached. At around 4:23 a.m., footage shows a man exiting the SUV as Eliza runs past. The video captures him moving towards her, followed by a physical struggle. During that struggle, Eliza is forced towards the vehicle and into it. The surveillance footage does not show what happens inside the SUV. A separate camera later captured the SUV parked nearby with Eliza inside it for approximately 4 minutes before it drove away. Investigators later noted that the vehicle had a damaged headlight, a detail that became important as the police began tracking it across multiple cameras throughout the city. Eliza Fletcher does not appear again on any surveillance footage after that point. When Eliza did not return home as expected, her husband reported her missing. Given the time of day and the sudden loss of contact, Memphis police treated the situation as urgent from the beginning. Officers began searching the area where she was last seen. Later that morning, police located several of Eliza's personal belongings near Central Avenue, including her phone, a water bottle, and one of her running shoes. A bicyclist riding through the area also noticed the shoe and alerted police, helping to confirm the exact location of the abduction. Based on the physical evidence, the surveillance footage, and the clear signs of a struggle, investigators concluded that Eliza had been abducted. The case escalated rapidly. Images of the suspect vehicle were circulated internally, and investigators began mapping its movement across nearby cameras, narrowing down the possible route. As the search continued, forensic evidence collected from the scene was analyzed. DNA recovered from the area was entered into law enforcement's databases. The results identified a match to Cleartha Abston, also known as Cleartha Henderson. Abston was not unknown to authorities. In 2000, when he was just 16 years old, Abston kidnapped a Memphis attorney at gunpoint. He forced the male victim into the trunk of a vehicle and drove around before stopping at a gas station. The attorney survived by shouting for help and escaping. Abston was convicted as an adult and sentenced to 24 years in prison, serving around 20 years before being released on parole in November 2020. After his release, Abston was accused of another violent crime. In September 2021, a woman reported that she had been abducted at gunpoint and sexually assaulted. A rape kit was collected at the time. However, due to a backlog in DNA testing, the evidence was not processed quickly, and Abston was not identified or arrested before Eliza Fletcher's abduction. After Eliza's disappearance, DNA testing linked Abston to the 2021 rape. In 2024, he was convicted and sentenced to 80 years in prison for that crime. Less than 48 hours after Eliza Fletcher was reported missing, police located Abston and arrested him. The SUV seen in the surveillance footage was also collected and searched. Investigators stated that the evidence inside the vehicle linked it directly to the abduction. Police confirmed there was no evidence Eliza knew Abston. There was no financial motive and no ransom demand. Investigators described the crime as opportunistic. 4 days after Eliza Fletcher was abducted, her body was found near an abandoned duplex on Victor Street in South Memphis. Authorities confirm her cause of death was a gunshot wound to the back of the head and a blunt force injuries to her head and leg. Eliza's husband was interviewed early in the investigation, as it's standard in missing persons cases, and was ruled out. Police stated the evidence clearly supported a stranger abduction. As the case progressed, attention turned to how the crime was possible. Many questioned how a man with a documented history of violent offenses had been released and was able to commit another attack. Public anger intensified when it became clear that a prior rape report had not led to an arrest due to delayed DNA processing. Vigils were held across Memphis. Flowers, candles, and handwritten messages were left near the abduction site. Parents, teachers, and students spoke about Eliza not as the headline, but as the teacher who showed up every day for children who depended on routine and stability. In October 2024, Abston pleaded guilty to the first-degree murder and kidnapping of Eliza Fletcher in order to avoid the death penalty. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, to be served alongside his 80-year sentence for the 2021 rape and kidnapping. Investigators concluded the attack was opportunistic. There was no evidence of prior contact, no financial motive, and no planning beyond the moment itself. It was an opportunistic crime carried out by someone who should never have been set free to commit another heinous crime again. Eliza Fletcher is remembered not for how she died, but for the life she lived, the children she taught, and the family she left behind. Thank you for watching.